Just want to, of course, thank Frieda and Ezra for coming out here tonight and being so completely brave and courageous in sharing your story. Frieda has been involved in the program from day one and has been an asset, and she's just amazing, and I expect the same tonight. I spoke to her earlier today and I said, Frieda, I have no nerves because I know you're in control. So that's just amazing. By the way, I'm not Linda Bennon. My name is Rachel Hazen. My mother's Linda. My phone didn't work. We're rolling with it. I also want to thank Dvora Entin from Knafayim. She's the clinical supervisor who'll be coming on right after me to talk with Frieda. Knafayim is an amazing organization that we work closely with. They are involved in pregnancy and infant loss, and they have helped Frieda and many, many community members along through the years.
And Ezra. They helped the husband. And Ezra. They helped the husband.
And Ezra. Ezra, I don't mean to forget about you.
No. I just wanted to stress they helped the husband.
100%.
Very important 100%. To say that.
And I'm so happy you're here tonight, Ezra. I think it's amazing. I also want to thank the entire events committee for helping us put this together. It cannot be done without all the details, and we really appreciate it. Since we started last August, we had a big bang launch, 450 women came. Since then, we had over 80 women and couples reach out for issues related to fertility, loss, and postpartum. And what really sets us apart is we take a very much an SBH approach to things. First and foremost, that means confidentiality is our #1 priority. We understand how private these issues can be, and we want to make sure that everyone feels safe when they reach out. And secondly, personal care. There is no cookie cutter approach to somebody reaching out for help. Everybody is considered different. Every journey is different. Every story is different. And everybody has different needs. And we completely understand that. And we're here to help you hold your hand through the journey. And oftentimes it could feel like a maze. There's so many organizations. There's so many doctors. There's so many questions, halakha questions, financial questions, medical questions. Who are you supposed to reach out to? It's impossible to know where to go next. And we launched this program to answer that call and be able to say, we are the one-stop shop. Call SBH. We'll make sure you are in the right hands, and we'll provide emotional support along the way through support groups, care packages. We have nurse support. We have peer-to-peer support, and the list goes on. But the point is, you should never have to feel alone on your journey, and we're here for you and we love you. So if you or someone you know is not sure what next step you should take, you have a question, Frieda, you want us to put that message up? We'll pin a message. It has our number on it. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you need anything at all, or if you know someone who does. And you can make it our program, and for many, many years to come, hopefully many people won't need it, but we are always, always here. So without further ado, Frieda I'll exit, and Frieda's gonna invite Dvora Entin in.
Hi, good to see you in person. All right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization maybe.
Sure. So I'm Dvora Entin. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have extra specialization and training in perinatal mental health. So basically my practice and my training relates to everything that comes into kind of the reproductive lifespan. So it's infertility, pregnancy loss, and perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. I work as a clinical consultant, not a supervisor, but a consultant to Knafayim. And much of my training in pregnancy loss really started with the work of Malki Clarisnefeld.
Who don't you hear?
I hear you hear, I hear myself in my headphones, so I know they're working.
Right.
I hear you in my headphones.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, somebody else is saying that they can hear.
Might have been like a quick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So no, that's fine. So, looking at kind of the reproductive lifespan of women and what are the mental health issues that women face, especially in the postpartum experience. And I know that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is recognizing that women who go through a loss, couples who go through a loss are experiencing a postpartum process, even though they're not holding a live baby. So I'm excited to spend this evening with you. And I must say, Frieda and Ezra, that, to be able to share the floor with a couple who are willing to share their story. And I know we always focus on women being willing to tell their story, but the fact that there's a guy by her side who's willing to tell his part of the story, it really is extraordinary. And I know that I'm hoping that there are other people in the audience. We have the live has hit almost 200 people already watching. That I know that there are going to be men who are maybe listening on the side and not pretending not to pay attention, but are actually paying attention, that will hear your voices and the voices of partners, spouses. And so just acknowledging how valuable it is that you are here with us tonight. So we thank you. So Frieda, why don't you begin by telling us your story about your child?
Okay. So first of all, we never really spoke about it, like in such a formal place like this. We never really speak about it at all. So excuse me if I'm probably going to be a little shaky. So my first pregnancy, in 2017, we got pregnant and everything was pretty normal. I mean, very normal, nothing out of the ordinary. We had a small hiccup in the beginning where the heartbeat was maybe too fast. We went back, everything was fine. We wound up switching doctors, which in hindsight is key to the whole story because we switched to a doctor of ours, Dr. Dweck, and he was just amazing with us and it made all the difference for the whole experience. So in my 6th month, we were driving one night and I very suddenly threw up. And the whole pregnancy, I was fine. I never threw up, nothing like that. So immediately I thought something was off and I thought that something was off, but I said, yeah, it's probably nothing. I don't know. I just threw up. I was nauseous. I ate too much. I don't know, whatever it was. So we went on with the week, but every day that went by, I was like, something's off. I don't know. Ezra, maybe I'm not feeling kicks as much. We're like, I don't know, is it off? I'm telling my friends.
You just started feeling kicks. I said, wait, so the baby's sleeping while you're awake, and you're sleeping while it's awake. Like we were.
Yeah, and I'm thinking he's right. Like
I was laughing at her. I was like, how could you not be feeling kicks right now?
I didn't want anything to be wrong, so we're in denial. I'm like, no, nothing's wrong. Exactly a week later, I was at actually People Set Go the whole day. I was so busy. I get home. Ezra was in Brooklyn. It was during the summer, and he was so against leaving me when I was pregnant to go to Brooklyn during the summer. But I said, just go. It's too hard to commute. You gotta go. He went to Brooklyn, and now that night I'm talking to him on the phone. I'm like, it's too weird. I'm telling you, I didn't feel anything today. Maybe I was too busy. I don't know. It's weird. He said, you know what? Just go to the emergency room. Just go. I was like, okay, fine. Let's go. Let's do this. Like taking that step to even go to the emergency room was like making things real. So I went with my parents to the emergency room, getting flashbacks, and I tell everybody why we're there, and immediately their faces sort of like get serious. I'm like, okay, why are they taking me seriously? Like, I don't want to be taken seriously. Okay, they hook me up to the ultrasound, and the first nurse comes. She looks at the screen, and she just like she doesn't look good, and she's not saying anything. Ezra's on the phone on speaker, and I'm squeezing my mother's hand, and she leaves. The nurse just leaves. The doctor comes in, and he looks at the screen again, and he says, "There's no heartbeat." When he said those words, my entire world just totally crashed. I have no words. We honestly never speak about that night. I never think about that night. It's just too hard. But I think I was screaming. I was just screaming, no, like, that can't be, check again. And I was just sitting there and we sort of just looked around like okay, what now? Like, we're in such shock. Like, you hear these things happen, I never really heard anyone personal that it happened to, and it's just this far off idea that it couldn't happen and never really real. All of a sudden, it's my life. It's happening. He told me he can't find a heartbeat. So I couldn't even walk. They wheeled me out, and I went home completely and utterly changed person. I mean, I left a piece of myself in that room that I'll never get back. I'm not the same ever since that moment. I'm really a different person. There's just no words. So we get home, Ezra comes, just the longest night of my life, of our life. We go the next day to our doctor, Dr. Dweck, and now it's like we go to the doctor and he starts telling us our options. We can have either a D&E or I can give birth. So I couldn't have a D&C, just technical for people who don't know. D&C is for earlier miscarriages and D&E is for later.
I'm going to just clarify that, if it's okay, that a D&E is a medical procedure and it involves a sedation. So a woman is put to sleep and the baby is evacuated from the uterus through a medical procedure. And then you'll talk about the other option that you were given.
Okay, so it was good that you said that, because that was part of, my decision in the end. I decided that I wanted to give birth. It's a very, very, very personal choice. It's a very personal decision.
So personal that I didn't give my opinion one way or another, what I wanted or what I didn't want.
And I decided I want to give birth. I felt like I want to bring this baby into the world safely in one piece. And, I started this. I want to bring her into this world peacefully. So that's what we did. Right from in the office when we made the decision, he sent us to the hospital. Like, it was just all so real. Right away we went to NYU, got hooked up to the machine. It was on the regular labor and delivery floor. I'm seeing, you see all other pregnant women, and I was just completely and utterly, it's like a blur. But they hooked me up, and I got epidural, everything, and which I don't know about that, but regardless, when I was on the way to the hospital, we're very, very, very privileged that a very close friend of my parents and my family is Dr. Victor Grazi, and so they were consulting with him, and he, by miracle of God, said, okay, there's this organization called Knafayim. I'm going to reach out. They're going to call you. We didn't have to do anything. Next thing you know, Malki called us, the founder of Knafayim, and she spoke to me personally, how am I feeling? She gave me some words of encouragement, asked me some questions, if I'd be okay, if she sent somebody to the hospital to help me through the labor. And I said 100%. I could need all the help that I could get. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not even here right now. So Zahava was coming, she said, I'm on my way. And next thing you know, it happened very fast. I dilated and gave birth. There's just there's no way. It's very hard even talking about it right now. It's the silence is just deafening. You picture this moment all your life, and suddenly you give birth, and the baby's not crying, and
You're crying.
I'm crying.
You're screaming. You're just like, what's happening?
I think we just cried, and the whole room was just silent. And Zahava didn't end up making it on time, but she came a couple of minutes later, and it was just so crazy. It was just what a hard. There's no way to explain the feelings of you think I'm carrying this baby for 6 months, and then all of a sudden now I'm holding her, and she's not with us. It was very hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my entire life, and leaving that hospital empty-handed. I left another piece of me in that hospital. I couldn't even drive past that block for the next year. But thank God, we got home. I had my family, my friends. Everybody was, trying to be there for me in whatever way that they could. And it was a slow process. But, I'll talk with Dvora a little more about, how friends and family can help. So I'm just going to first continue on with the story, with my life, how it went. I personally wanted to try to get pregnant right away. I had to wait. those months waiting were daunting. And then when I was able to start trying until I got pregnant again, it was daunting. And then I got pregnant, and that was even scarier. And
I think we went to the ER the second time you were pregnant like 10 times.
like 10 times. I mean,
we were in Florida on the beach. We found a baby imaging center where they take a picture of your fetus so you can hang it up on your refrigerator just to check the heartbeat. Because I asked, does this machine check the heartbeat? Because if not, we don't want to waste our time. We'll just go to an emergency. No, it does, and we went there.
I was a panic. It was really just the hardest year of my life. It was, so we, thank God, 5 months later, I got pregnant, and I gave birth, Baruch Hashem, really, to my miracle angel baby, my Rina. Hashem is really, it's a true blessing from Hashem. And even after that, I wasn't even myself again until I think a couple months after I gave birth. You don't come back. It wasn't reality, I wasn't like, I had this baby, okay, I had a baby, and all of a sudden one day that it clicked, I looked at Ezra and I was like, oh my God, like I left. I left again. I'm having personality again. I was totally in a hole. Like I didn't allow myself to be happy for so long. But thank God, like for me, that was like sort of full circle. And 2 months ago, we actually had another baby girl. So really, Baruch Hashem, we're very blessed. What happened will never leave us. We have 3 daughters. We don't have 2. And I just wanted to, the reason we decided to speak tonight is really because when we went through it, I didn't know anybody who went through it. And if I had been able to watch something like this and listen to something or talk to somebody, which I did, that was one of the only things that got through to me, is that I spoke to, specifically one girl, Sarah Babai, shout out. She said I could say her name. She really got me through it, up all night, texting her every night. She got me through a lot.
Yeah, she was a huge help for you.
Huge.
Her husband also was very helpful.
So that's why I decided to speak tonight. If I could help one person listening, if they could reach out, anything, everybody's journey is different, and everyone's grieving process is different. And thank God now we have SBH to sort of walk you through everything when you're confused, and to pair you up with somebody who's going through it also, which Rachel will maybe talk about. And without my husband and without my friends and family, I don't know where I'd be, and my kids, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Dvora, I don't know.
Yes, I'll kind of pick up from different angles every time you said certain thing. I'm like, oh, let's talk about that. Oh, let's talk about that. Right? There's so many angles to this story, and it is, I'm watching the comments come in. Besides the blessings that people are giving you, there's also the sense of bravery. Right? When we go through something that's so painful and also so, in many ways, very public, but also very private, right? If everybody knew you were pregnant, then they also know like something went wrong, but we're not supposed to really talk about it. Like, how do we?
They asked.
Right?
They said, "Oh, how old's your baby now?" Like, what? There's no baby in your belly, but
Exactly. And you commented on that, right? And you commented on that idea of saying, I don't have 2 daughters, I have 3 daughters. Right. And I think that's one of the hardest things, as you and I discussed, for parents, is that concept of what is my family now? What does my family mean? How do I make sense of this child that will always be my firstborn child, whether that child got to live with me at home and come home with me, is not something that I have control over, but ultimately still feels mine. That child is mine. What are some of the challenges that you have when people ask you about your family size?
So, it really started like a couple of weeks after when I first, like not even a couple of weeks, whenever I started going out again, people would see me and say, oh, Mabruk, or, oh, would you have? I just used to freeze up. And with every question that somebody would ask me like that, even after I gave birth to Rina, even when I was pregnant with her, if they asked me, is it a girl? Do you know what it is? I even got triggered from that, like thinking about what my first one was. And so now today when people ask me, is it your first? I want to say, like, no, it's not my first. This is your second. No, it's not my second. Sometimes maybe I'll tell them, but other times I sort of just, in my head, I'll say out loud, it's my first. But then in my head, I'm like, it's really not my first. Ezra really tells people he's much braver than I am. He really will say, no, it's my second. We had a first,
Right. When you talk about, Ezra, I want to bring you into the conversation because I think that, like I said before, it is brave for a man to stand up and express emotions. Not everybody does it so well, and I'm really proud of you for getting up there and talking
I
about
don't know
it.
if I'm going to do it well. I hope so.
All right, ready? Here we go. Ezra, what was it like for you as a first-time father to hold your child when your child was no
Ooh.
longer alive?
It's an unexplainable feeling because I don't know how to put it into words. It's the most, like Frieda said, it's the most terrible thing that we've ever been through. I pray that we don't have another challenge, remotely close to that, because unfortunately there are worse circumstances in the world. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into perspective. Zahava was a very big help. I wouldn't hold the baby till Zahava told me, a lot of people sort of in your shoes while we were in the moment sort of feel this sort of closure. If it is your baby, you can hold this baby. It may not be with us, but you can hold her and you can give her the same bracha you would give a living baby. And I did just that. And it was, I don't know, it was.
When you look back on that time, do you, one of the things that I think that I hear the most from couples is that they're so thankful that they had those few minutes with the child. Very often parents make the very difficult decision of, should I see the baby? Should I not see the baby? And I think it's an important comment. People say like, no, maybe it would have been better for you not to. I'm wondering for you, Frieda, like what was it that was so valuable to you to hold her and to see her?
It made it real. If I didn't do that, if I did the option of the DNA and I went to sleep and I woke up and my stomach was flat, I
It would have
think
been a dream.
it would have been like, I wouldn't have been able to process it. Being able to hold her, to see her, to feel her, I knew she was real. I knew, because everybody would say afterwards to me, oh, you'll forget about it in 10 years. Like, you'll have your whole family and you'll move on. And then I think I never would have been able to have real closure if I didn't see her and know, because that, even at 6 months, you hold the baby, it's a baby.
It's a baby.
5
It's a
hands,
baby.
like 5 fingers, 10 fingers, 10 toes, it's a baby.
Yes.
It's my baby.
Right.
Like, that's my baby.
I want to address that idea of closure because it's such a confusing concept. And it's actually one that therapeutically I actually never use. Like I'd never use the term closure because closure to me almost feels like it's done, right? But really what you're describing is that that child always has this place in your family story. To me, it's more about making it a part of the process of integration. That we acknowledge that this process of saying hello to your child, of meeting and holding and touching and connecting to this baby that was once moving inside of you has extraordinary power and value to you as parents. For those moments, you got to be a parent in a different way than you could ever in the future with this baby. And to me, it's about like this child will always hold the space in your lives in being the one that made you parents. Not the parents of a living child, but the parents of this little girl, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering for you, Ezra, can you tell me what it was like for you to watch your wife in this extraordinary amount of emotional pain?
I don't know if I want to think about that. It's, her emotional pain was, it was a disaster, but I think emotionally I might have been worse than she was. I was, I couldn't understand what she was going through, and I think that was the worst part for me. It's just like my body's not going through this.
Right.
I'm,
right.
I don't feel anything physically. I don't have any of these motions. They're not giving me an epidural. They're not giving me progesterone. They're not telling me that I'm not dilated enough. They're not, my body's not freezing and then hot and like frantic and frigid and shaking and just like, I don't know. I was by her side and I pray. I know that I was maybe saving this for the end. I pray that nobody should ever go through this.
Amen.
I pray that all of these organizations that are here for something similar to this or close to this are the past.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
No person should ever have to see another person that way. I'm not. I mean.
Let me tell you why I bring up that question. It could almost seem like an invasive question, and it is an invasive question. But you gave me permission to ask you questions, so I might have to go that way. The reason I bring it up, the reason I bring this up is very often we see in the dynamic of the couple, we more often see the father going, you just take care of my wife. As long as she's okay, I'll be okay. You just take care of my wife, right? And what I appreciate about your honesty is this ability to say, I was also in extreme pain and emotionally in intense pain. And one of the things that we talk about with couples that are going through such a hard time is the necessity of creating communication around each other's tsa'ar, right? Around each other's pain, that it not just be about one or about the other, but it be about the connection of the we, the both of us together doing this. And that ultimately unifies the couple in their pain. Because too often I'll hear women say to me, but like, I don't even know that it's affecting him because he's trying to be strong, right? He's supposed to be the man. He's supposed to be the protector. And that's what he's focused on. And he's not connecting me he's not connecting to me over the sadness and the pain of what I've lost and what I'm experiencing in this moment. Does that resonate to you? Can you see that experience potentially in other people?
Yeah, I mean, it was the biggest piece of advice that I got was, Ezra, you forget this, make sure your wife is okay.
Right, right.
But this
Right.
didn't happen, didn't happen. Nothing, it was nothing.
Right.
It was definitely something.
Yeah.
It was definitely
That
something.
I want to comment on that idea. You had mentioned that to me before, this idea of like being told it's nothing. Frieda, did you ever hear that from anybody as well? Like you just have to get over this and just move on?
I'm not like that. But people
Mhm.
who face things similar to that, but not
Mhm.
as like harsh as that.
Mhm.
People would tell them really just move on. But people would tell me, oh, thank God, you can get pregnant. Oh, you'll get through this. They told me, like I said, in 10 years you'll forget about this. It'll be a distant memory. They like, don't tell me that. That's not what I want to hear. Just tell
Right.
me, I'm sorry. I'm here for you. Like
Right.
this is my advice to people who have friends or family going through this, who've gone through this. I pushed away a lot of my friends and family, mostly my friends. I pushed everybody away, and people would tell me, all sorts of things. Somebody asked me, how was the birth? Well, why are you asking me that? I don't want a healthy birth is hard,
Right. Right.
But really, people just get very choked up and they don't know what to say. Sometimes the wrong thing comes out, so I understand. But just for friends for friends who have people who are going through this, my advice to you is just be there for them. If they're closing you out, reach out polite, once in a while. Do you want to go for a drive? What if I come over in the pajamas? Let's just watch a movie, one-on-one even. Like, I didn't want to go be with a bunch of people. I didn't want to go be with the crowd. Even like 3 people to me felt like a crowd. Like, I didn't want to do anything.
It's weird. What are we celebrating? What are we getting together for? Like, it's like, it's.
So
Right.
just be there for them. Just, I'm here for you. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what you're going through.
Right. I want you to notice one thing, right? So when you bring up what is supportive to you, you're making statements. Listen to what you said. I am here for you. I care about you. I'm so sorry you've been through this. I'm going to bring over a cup of coffee. I'm going to come over in my pajamas and we'll hang out together. You're not saying, how was the birth? How do you feel? Are you okay? Right? There's no good answers to those questions. And it puts people who are struggling or suffering to be in this like state of like trying to make you pretend, like trying to pretend that they are okay. And instead, making statements instead of asking questions really offers them this companionship in their pain rather than them feeling, and they may turn you down. They may say, no, thanks, I'm going to be okay by myself, but I appreciate, thanks for reaching out. They may not answer your text message, but ultimately the person who's consistently giving statements and not questions, those are the people that ultimately your friend will reach back out to you and connect with you when they are ready, right? Yeah. I think that's about the showing up and continuing to show up. I'd like to bring also up the idea of the anniversary, right? So the birthday is also the art site, right? And some of us, and based on communal norms and communal cultural norms or religious norms, some people will use it as an official yard site, some will not, and some will have a candle, some will not. Depends on the community and the communal culture. But the parent, whether there's a ritual attached to it or not, the parent wants to acknowledge that this happened, right? Do you remember, I'm sure you remember, would you like to share anything about what it was like to when the anniversary of the 1 year of her birth? came
I
around?
was dreading that day. I mean, I was dreading it. I felt like until we
We
moved past that day.
we dreaded the day she would have been born.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what she's saying. Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
was saying that, no, I was saying
no,
that I was
she was
actually
talking
asking
about
like the
Oh,
anniversary of the birth, a year
right.
later
oh,
from her
yeah.
birth.
So that day was really hard also.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
really hard. But you know what? When did I give birth to Rena? I was pregnant. I was pregnant with my second baby, and
yeah,
Over that time.
yeah, it was not easy. Every
yeah,
year I wanted to do something special. I don't know what to do. I don't know what was special enough. I ended up doing nothing and regretted it. And I didn't know what to do. But I wanted to do something. But there's no Hebrew name. There's no everybody can do a big Chali, can you say bracha? Like there's nothing like that really to do. It was just sort of like I think I did big Chali and maybe a day late.
You did.
Did I did it for her, but that there's not. It was just
Your
really
friends
hard
came
day.
over and you guys did it all together.
Oh, that was
Mm.
so actually the week of the due date, that was really hard for me. The day of, my friends actually did the most perfect thing. They delivered me. They got me a box from John Free Beauty, which is it's a beauty supply company that had like skincare and stuff. It was just so. You don't want materialistic things. You want like maybe.
You want to you want to be you want to be remembered. You want someone
yeah.
to remember that
Yeah.
you're
Remember.
hurting. It doesn't
That
matter what's
probably
in
put a
that
smile
box.
on her face.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everybody sort of moves on. It doesn't matter what's
Right.
in the box.
Right.
You're right. It really doesn't. It's just the fact that my doorbell rang and somebody dropped it off. I was like, they knew.
Right.
Like today
Right.
was
They
the day.
remember.
Like who.
Right.
Everyone sort
Right.
of just moved on every day, and they lived their normal lives until November 17th.
Yeah.
They lived their normal days, but I
Yeah.
didn't. And then when they said that box, I was like, okay, they didn't forget. Like no one, people
Right.
didn't forget.
Yeah.
They
I'd like to
touch it.
I'd like to recommend that that's something that if there's one other takeaway that people have from listening to this conversation is the importance of remembering, the importance of acknowledging the due date, acknowledging the birth date, in whatever way feels appropriate depending on your relationship. But that if you have a friend who delivered a baby that was born still, or you had a friend who suffered some kind of a significant loss, put it in your cell phone, put it in as a yearly reminder so that you will always remember and acknowledge, find the words that you need to communicate with that friend to say, I'm remembering that this week is going to be hard for you. I'm remembering what happened to you a year ago. I'm remembering your daughter. If the person who she lost maybe has a name, use the name. It could be for the loved one, like a child loss. It could be a baby loss. It could be an infant pregnancy loss. It goes beyond that. It could be any kind of loss. But just remember when everybody else forgets, or it feels like everybody else forgets, to be remembered is so, so powerful. I'm acknowledging like kind of the time, and I know there's two pieces that we both wanted to talk about, the idea of pregnancy after loss, being pregnant after a loss, and also talking for a minute or two about postpartum, and then being open to answer questions from the feed. So I want to acknowledge that being pregnant after a lost pregnancy is kind of its own special category for me from a clinical perspective. It is something that is extraordinarily difficult. It is something that is one that can be very deeply laced with anxiety, especially as you work through, let's say for you, it would have been like that 6th month, especially like something went wrong in the 6th month. Will something go wrong again in this 6th month? And acknowledging that it's really, really important to have support through any subsequent pregnancy. And while it might be normal to have anxiety, we also want to pay attention to when anxiety begins to impact a person's daily functioning. So, being alert and educated about how difficult is this anxiety and how is this anxiety impacting my daily functioning? Who do I need to talk to get the help that I need? Who is an expert who can guide a woman through a pregnancy? If I need medication to manage my moods, who are the experts in that area who are not afraid of treating a pregnant woman? We have experts out there. They're called reproductive psychiatrists. Like, there are people there that can help you. Don't be afraid to get the help that you need. Do you want to talk about that at all? Because one of the other things I think about, Frieda, is that idea of like people commenting, or either of you can talk about that. Like the idea of saying, I'm pregnant after a loss. Everything should be okay now. You're okay. Do you guys want to take a break?
No.
You're good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually our second baby is having a little bit of a rough time, so someone just came by to say that everything is okay. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to answer that.
So
I
just
mean,
that idea of like, I think one of the things I wonder if you got comments like this, like as soon as you give birth, you're like, oh, so now you're okay, right? Like now you're good. right? Because now everything's better.
The one thing that I was sort of stressful with Frieda, and sort of like not stressful but stressed to Frieda, is that there is no right or wrong right now. There is no way to feel right now. There is no way to think right now. There is no way to be right now. And whatever you are, so long as you're not hurting yourself, you're not hurting your life, and you're not, nobody's being hurt by it, grieve. We lost. It's okay to grieve. We have to grieve. If we don't grieve, we'll never get over it. And one day we'll wake up and this void in our life will be there, and we won't understand where it came, like what happened and why, and what was missing is, what's actually missing right now is our daughter. Our daughter is now with us. She was missing from the day she was born. That's something that we acknowledge, we understand. I think the reason that I'm able to talk about it, there's things that I can't talk about. There's things that if I mention them right now, I'll break down instantly. I broke down with you over the phone. I don't know if you noticed, but there's things that, you have to, you have to take your time. You have to understand that it's normal. You're grieving. You are grieving a loss. There is no Shiva. The rest of the world is moving on with their life. Yeah. You're not expected to move on. I mean, I don't expect anybody going through this to move on with their life so quickly.
I love that you said that. I'll give you an honorary psychology therapist social work degree just for what you just said. Okay? It came from a place of such honesty. And if anybody on the call takes away, one line, that's it. It's just be. You have to be with those feelings. You have to be with the intensity of that sadness. And yeah, you don't get to just move on. You have to begin to move through over time, but at your own pace and at your own time. Frieda, what was it like for you to be pregnant again after the loss?
I mean, I was anticipating every minute until I got pregnant. And then I finally got pregnant again. And I was like, wait, hold up. This is much scarier.
Scary. Mm-hmm.
This is so scary. I think I tiptoed for 9 months.
Yeah.
Our doctor said this was an accident, a freak accident, something you never have to worry about. I said, if it's a freak accident, I'm worried every time she's pregnant.
I didn't mention what happened. Should I say what happened? I didn't mention, he said, like, even the doctor was reassuring us the second time, like, it was a fluke. But I didn't mention in my story. Should I say now?
That's okay. That's okay. I think I want to be able to address the postpartum. Yeah. And I think that especially because for most people, it usually is just a fluke of nature, that there is no reason why that this happened, or we don't really have a tangible reason why. Yeah. But I do want to bring up, and then we'll answer some questions. I'm happy to stay a little bit longer as needed. What are some of the wonderful? What are some of the, thinking about that postpartum process? So, grief looks a lot like depression. Grief can also look a lot like anxiety. And so we want to fully honor and acknowledge that you need to be able to do that deep, painful grief process, that sadness, that moving through mud, that lack of motivation, that barely able to take care of myself process. But we also know that women that are in the postpartum period are at additional vulnerability, right? Especially if you have any other additional risk factors. We are in risk or in a vulnerable space for fluctuation of hormones, for any kind of mood dysregulations that could present, the postpartum depression, the postpartum anxiety, right? So we look at it as grief because you're grieving, and we're also kind of paying attention, is the if person who has a history of depression or a history of diagnosed anxiety, both of those things will put you at additional risk for having a resurgence of that illness in the postpartum period. So any family members who are watching others grieving, we want you to kind of check in and making sure that their basic needs are being met, that they are eating, that they are sleeping, that they are taking care of just the basic needs. I'm okay if they're crying. I'm okay if they're really sad. Not okay with a hopelessness that makes them express wanting to die. But I will tell you that it's very possible that you'll hear someone say, I don't want to live because my baby is not alive anymore. I want to go where my baby is, and that's where my baby is, and I don't want to be here. I want to be there with my child. So that's not actually really suicidal thinking. It's actually just coming from a place of extraordinary sadness. But do you want to talk for a minute about what your postpartum experience was like?
So, when I decided to give birth, instead of having the procedure, and of course you would be postpartum no matter what, but I didn't think about it. I didn't realize, I never gave birth before. It was my first kid. I never went through that experience. So experiencing postpartum, now, I might have had stitches, I don't remember, but regardless, I got home and now I'm bleeding. I'm having all this pain. 2
2
days
days
later,
later, your milk
my
comes
milk
in.
comes in. That was, I think, I mean, Baruch Hashem, my body was able to produce milk, but that was like the cherry on top. I'm maybe starting to finally like untense my body for a couple of days. All of a sudden, bam, my milk came in. Like that was just the one that was really hard.
It's salt in an open wound.
Exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. It made me, you know, want to nurse so badly afterwards for my second baby. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, I had an amazing experience with that. But I was postpartum without the baby. You know, everything that you get after giving birth. Like I had that too, just to remind me every day. Like don't forget, in case you want to move on, you can't. Like but it was really and it was also sort of nice a little bit because I was feeling all those things. It was reminding me it was real. It was my connection to the baby also. So it sort of like I didn't dream this up. I did have a baby. She is mine. She's with Hashem now, you know. It was just, but that was really hard postpartum, and people don't realize that I'm postpartum now. Like, you know, I have stretch marks, I have all these things, and like,
Very much so. And I would like to just acknowledge also that being postpartum after that second child of yours also has additional vulnerabilities, because it's like I've been holding my breath for over 9 months of this second pregnancy, and all of a sudden I have to exhale, and I also have to make sure that this baby keeps on breathing, right? In a very practical way, we have moms who are like, and fathers who are up at night checking on the baby's breathing, and is the baby okay? And what do I, right? And every responsibility to like keep that kid alive.
Not breathing.
Oh,
she
God.
came out not breathing. She came out not breathing. They needed to vacuum her lips open or something. I don't remember what it was, but for a good 10 seconds, we had another sort of like, hey guys,
right?
You
They
know,
probably not vacuum, but suction. They were suctioning out
whatever it is,
the mucus. Yeah, but it's so frightening, like that. Those suspended moments in time, like right.
But
Absolutely.
it really lasted for like I never had anxiety before. I am 100% developed anxiety from it. I 1,000% had an anxiety attack. Never in my life had that before. I was so depressed, and I think really, like I said when I said originally, until I gave birth, I still wasn't even like myself again. It was a couple months later, all of a sudden I was like, okay, you know, the grieving process, it's a really long and hard, and it's definitely different for each person. You know, people might be able to go over it faster, and just like there is no right way to grieve.
Right.
Could be long,
You're right.
could be short, you could be smiling, you could be sad. There's no right way.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. I think that's an important message for everybody to take home, is there isn't a right way as long as you're doing something. So, you know, the ones where I get most nervous is the women who say, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm going back. It was nothing. It was only 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks. I'm like, I need to go back to work. Everything's fine. There's nothing for me to grieve about because I didn't even, like, there was nothing there, right? And that's just completely ignoring, and it will explode later. I promise you, it's a volcano. It's going to erupt at another time in your life. Usually when you're pregnant the second time around or the third time around, and then the postpartum is a disaster. So, you know, as long as you're doing grief in whatever way you need to do grief, if it's with a counselor, if it's in a support group, I think it's a good idea to just mention a couple of, you know, those resources, and then please feel free to put your questions into the chat. I'm assuming, Frieda, you're going to monitor that chat and see if there's anything that we want to answer and address. But Kanafime is one of those environments that organizations, is totally volunteer run, where we send in exactly as you described, that Zahava went in as a volunteer to give an emotional support, to guide you in that process. So we have emotional doulas, or women that are trained in order to support others going through the loss. We have every single month.
She came back to us more than once.
Yeah, came over to help
beautiful,
us
beautiful. Beautiful. And, you know, this is what it means to truly care for our community. So we have monthly support groups for women who are going through, who have gone through pregnancy loss at any gestation. We have support groups for women.
Calls.
These are right, exactly. We have conference support calls for women who have experienced the termination of a pregnancy, whether they were dealing with a fetal anomaly that they needed to terminate or chose to terminate a pregnancy. That is a separate group. We have also a special group just for women who've had emergency hysterectomies. And then another group for like early infant loss of children, people who have lost babies within the first approximately 30 days. So reach out to SBH, reach out to Kanafime, find out what resources that you need. It's never too late to get support. So you could say to me, I had a loss a year ago, 5 years ago, but I never dealt with it. Deal with it. Let's get you connected with other people who are dealing. Frieda, what are some of the questions that you want to address?
So
I know they're running up really quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you
Okay,
didn't
so
talk about.
somebody
I'm not going
said-
to talk about it, but if you want to talk
Somebody
about it.
asked, will you be telling your other children about your loss? And I think about it, I don't know. I guess when she's old enough, maybe like when she's, I don't know. It's really hard. I'm gonna go with the flow, I guess, and just see how it comes. But if she's ready, when she's ready, that would be something to think about. But
Yeah.
someone said, what changed? I'm sorry, I wanted to.
No, I just from a therapeutic perspective, if it's something that you talk openly about, then it's something that when the children are ready, that you will share with them that this baby was part of your family as well. For some people who have photos of the baby, they will choose one day to share that photo with their young, we're not with a 5-year-old, not with a 7-year-old, but maybe with an older teenager or somebody who's 10, 11, or 12. And some children are very curious and begin to ask, but we don't want secrets in the family. Secrets make us sick. So if parents hold secrets from children, especially something of high impact like a loss, that could be high conflict for a child. So what we can do to age appropriate address these questions for our children, it's very developmentally specific.
Right. So wait, hold on.
Oh, don't exit out.
No, you gotta leave it on.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, hold on.
Is that
I want you to
comfortable?
say something. So you mentioned photos. Actually, the hospital gave an option. Do you want a photo box? For a new baby, a healthy baby, they offer the option to take photos of your baby and keepsake with the footprints and everything. So they asked us, and I said yes, even though I wasn't sure. I just didn't want to lose the opportunity. And Zahava actually took that box home for us and said, whenever you're ready, call me up and you can have it. So, a few months later, I did call her up and she gave me back my box, the baby's picture of my baby. And I still have it. We open it, whenever I'm feeling it. And maybe I will show her my kids eventually, those pictures. So, should I look at more questions?
I apologize. Somebody asked the question, and I'm sorry if I did something wrong.
I think it got deleted, perhaps.
Yeah, I know it's there. So, how did I stay positive during the second pregnancy? Somebody asked. Hold on. I'll say it. I lost mine at 6 months. How do you move on? How do you stay positive during a new pregnancy? It was really, really, really hard to stay positive during that second pregnancy. But I just held on to hope. I really just held on to hope and to Emunah and Hashem. Just that, the first one, whatever the reason was, this is me, personal, very personal again. So it's not applying to everyone, but for me, it was whatever the reason that happened the first time, it was for the best, whether I know it or not. I'm never going to understand it, but God willing, just this one will be good. God willing, you have to have hope. It's just a lot of emunah. There's really there's no like rhyme or reason. It's just emunah.
A very hard thing for me personally was fighting the question why. Why did this happen? Why us? Why now? Why the first? Why what? And ultimately, I stopped trying to ask why. I just stopped trying to answer that question because it's. I mean, if you could find the answer, kudos to you. But I just feel like it's a pit, and it's lonely because nobody wants to hear why. Nobody wants to.
Well,
if I would have.
I want to acknowledge that idea. Also, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I want to acknowledge that sometimes people will offer you reasons, especially in the religious world. They'll say, "Well, maybe it's because of this, or you should have done this, right?" Or you're so lucky God chose you to bring this neshama into the world. Yeah. It can be, most parents will be like, I don't really want to be that lucky. Like that's not the luck I want.
I wish I wasn't here today.
I wish I wasn't so lucky. Exactly.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't sitting in front of you guys today.
Yes. And if there's, and I think that if that's, kind of one kind of warning reminder to people, it's not our place to try to find reasons why, make suggestions, reasons why, things that they should change and improve, the things that they need to, kind of work on in their lives. That is absolutely not our place. And we can't pretend to have a silver, kind of a crystal ball and to know why these things happen. But like you said, we just don't know the answer to these things. But Frieda, I want to acknowledge also that in terms of the complexity of going through the next pregnancy, it may be possible, you expressed feeling just, holding on to hope and emunah. Sometimes women, I think it takes courage to try again, right? It's desperate, right? But it also takes courage. But it can be very complicated. I have a lot of women who will not tell people that they are pregnant. I have a lot of women who will keep it totally quiet as hard as they can, as quiet as they can for as long as they can.
We
and
didn't
not
tell a
discuss.
soul.
Right, right. And it makes total sense. And I think that that's just to acknowledge that it's going to be hard the next time around, even with emunah, even with courage, it will be difficult. And to be patient with yourself in that process.
Yeah. Patience is key. I just want to read through some of the questions.
Patience is important.
Somebody asked, what's something that you did to change yourself afterwards? What change did you take upon yourself? And I want to say that, you know, the change I took upon myself was how I interact with other people, because you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what happened to them a week before, a day before, a month before, a year before. And I became very...
Trying to get married, trying to get pregnant, trying to...
anything.
You know, discipline their children, trying to... Whatever it is, just be sensitive.
Be sensitive. Anything you say can take someone's day and kill it, you know, turn their world upside down. So
or the opposite. You can make it.
Yeah, or you can make it.
Use your mouth for good.
You know, sensitive questions about people getting pregnant, being pregnant, stay away. Unless you know them on a personal level, think hard before you speak. So that's what I do. I do my best to really, really, really make sure not to say anything that might trigger something, or you know, even talking about my daughter, I don't ever talk about her without my friend. Even send pictures of her in a WhatsApp chat. How about this? In a WhatsApp group chat. Very hard to not to talk, and I had to leave my chat. Many chats I left. I couldn't be in it, you know. But it's hard to guard everything you say all the time. But you've got to do your best. Like you have to do your best, because you know.
I will tell you that I hear that from every single client I've ever worked with. The family chat, when they've experienced a loss, or they're dealing with infertility, or they're really struggling postpartum, post-loss, and the family chat that's constantly flooded with these cute little pictures of their nieces and nephews. And they're like, do they not remember that I just delivered a 6-month death, right? Where is their sensitivity? And to just please acknowledge that those, be aware, be alert. And yes, it's hard not to share those photos. So share them one-on-one with the bubbies and the Zadies and the grandmas and the grandpas. And wait a minute, what do we call them in your community?
Grandpa and grandma.
Grandpa and grandma. Okay, I'm just making sure. Like, you know, like we making sure that you share them with the grandmas and the grandpas in individual chat. It doesn't have to be with the whole family on them, even though, you know, so send it to your sister, send it to your brother. Yeah, it would be easier to send it in the group. But if there's somebody on that group that's struggling, it's okay. We don't need to cause them pain.
Someone's saying something that's like a very, I mean, it's like the last comment that's here. It's very sort of part of and intrinsic to us, is every time somebody finishes a milestone in their life, whether they just got married, or they had a bar mitzvah, or they had a baby boy, or they had a baby girl, someone says to a person who they know is expecting a similar outcome in their life, you know, next by you, oh, Balak, it's like, you know, you should see that in your life soon. Like, you should be married soon. You should have a child soon. You should have a boy soon. You should have a girl soon. You should, you know, pray for it intrinsically. Really mean it. Don't say it.
I have actually somebody asked a really good question. After your loss, if you saw someone in the street, if I saw someone in the street, would I want them to come up to me and say, I'm so sorry, or not bring it up to you?
In the street?
In the street. I think it's a very person-to-person question, meaning if
some people would want it,
with that person.
Right.
If that person, first of all, if I saw you in the street and you hadn't said anything to me yet, then we're probably not that close. You know, most people who I'm close to or was ever close with, most people reached out over text message. You know, I'm here for you, which was really the right thing to do. Reach out, you know, to your friend. I'm there for you. I can't imagine what you're going through. I have no words. Can I come over? Can I do that? I'm coming over. Don't ever say I'm coming over. They probably
no.
Over, right?
drop something at the front door.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm bringing you a coffee. I'm ringing the doorbell and I'm leaving.
Exactly.
Because it just shows that I'm there, but I don't have to be communicative with me.
Exactly. You know, somebody actually got me this necklace. This was a really nice thing to a friend. You can see it says Nana. Somebody got me this necklace, a close friend of mine, and that was just really special to me. You know, just different. Not that that's the right thing to do for everybody, but to just being there. You don't have to get them anything. Just being there, like we said before, remembering.
It's not about things.
Remember for them, you know, let them know that you didn't forget. Just even now today, like I have 2 daughters, Baruch Hashem, like really Baruch Hashem. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it. You know, I still can get triggered by people saying things. Not that everyone always has to watch their mouth. I control how I feel. You know, just goes to show that, like, you can still remember, even, you know, every, like, there are years to come of all people who've gone through these things, and just remembering and just telling the person that you're there for them, and is the most important thing.
I would suggest also, you know, in my support calls, you know, sometimes the Kanafayim support calls will have somewhere between 65 and 100 women on the calls. On average, we're in the 60s to 70s. And I could divide that group in half, and I could say to 50% of them, 50% will say, how could you not have acknowledged that I had just delivered a full-term baby that didn't live? And the other half will say, how dare you say anything to me? Don't say one word, keep it quiet. I want to just move on in my life in a public space. So, you know, you get 50 and 50. I think that, but if your determination of your comments are kind, are simple, and no questions, you usually can't go wrong. But whatever your relationship was with that person before really should determine the relationship that exists with you with them now.
So there's a question here, 100%. Sorry, but this one came in. I'm sorry, by the way, to the person who sent the message before, and I'm glad my wife caught it. I didn't mean to put it on the screen. This next question is sort of all-encompassing. Let's read the question out loud.
How do you deal with the people telling you it's time to move on, stop harping over the loss?
There is no harping over this loss. There is no harping over it. You will never harp on it too much. Anybody who tells you to stop harping on it, it needs a very serious reality check in their life. You know, whatever roses and daisies they live with on a daily basis, you know, I'm sorry that I sound a little angry on this one. It's just, I have no tolerance for somebody saying, stop harping about your loss. You lost a child.
Would you ever say this to someone who had a 5-year-old? Would you ever say, stop harping on the loss? Right? You would never say that to somebody who loses a 5-year-old child.
No. Yeah. You lost a baby that was living inside of you. If you brought it into the world and you lost it afterwards, I don't think it makes much of a difference. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to take as much time as you want. This is just my opinion. I don't know who would agree or who wouldn't agree to this. I actually don't care. Take your time and grieve. And if anybody tells you to stop harping, my number is 917-257-7012. You can tell them to call me, and I'll tell them that they should leave you alone.
And to say,
not kindly.
You know, I read the question over. How do you deal with it? If maybe to confront the person, you know, on the side and just, you know, say, I don't think you understand the severity of what I went through,
or it's none of your business.
Yeah, exactly. How I grieve is my. It's up to me. You know, please let me be in my grief, and just if it's not okay with you, then that's fine. Like, you don't have to talk about it with me. It's your problem. Like, you know.
You lost a child.
Yes.
You lost a child. No matter what anybody says, no matter if it was meant to be, it was right. You believe in God and it was meant to be. Right. I believe in God and it was meant to be. It was. But when it happened, I wasn't thinking that. And I don't care what people think about that. That's fine. I didn't think that this was meant to be. It wasn't my time for people to tell me this was meant to be. You never know what the child could have had. I don't care what the child could have had. I'd rather have the kid in my hands.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
So there is no length to your grief. I'm still grieving. You can attest to the fact we spoke on Sunday. I cried over the phone. I will not, you know, I mean, I'm happy to talk about whatever it is that you guys want. You know, I'm happy to cry with you guys here if you want, but you're not going to get over this. And this isn't something that you need to get over.
You're not going to get over it.
No, it's not something that you need to get over.
Right.
It's something that you need to acknowledge happened to you.
And you begin to create life beyond that with it. I just want to say how authentic it was, what you just described, and how it's clinically sound. I know that sounds so stupid coming from a therapist, but like what you just had, that idea of you need to stay and you're allowed to grieve as long as you need to grieve, and that grief is going to be with you forever, and that loss is always a part of your family. Like, that is statistically relevant. And it's when we do that, when we stay present with our grief and we own it in that way and permit it in that way, you will continue to live life to its fullest in spite of or because of that grief experience, right?
Sure.
It's there.
Yeah.
I
want to say something a little positive.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like I just need to bring some positivity.
I want to end on that note.
Like I say every day, you know, thank God this happened. I don't say it every day. It's very hard to say that every day. But, you know, I do say, you know, I'm grateful that this happened to me, because I have a completely different perspective on life now. I have a completely different perspective on relationships, and it changed me as a mother, for sure. I
Changed me as a
100%
father.
changed us as parents. You know, the way I look at and
We just went
interact
to
with my
Israel.
daughter.
We just went to Israel and left our baby for like the longest time
It was
that we have, and like the two of us were just like,
forever.
we're not going.
Like it just, you know, it changed me forever in a good way, because you know, so thank God I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today. My first daughter, my second daughter, I wouldn't have those neshamot with me today if not for the first one. I would not have those neshamot with me because I wouldn't have tried again 5 months later. You know, I would have gotten pregnant 5 months later, but I did. I got pregnant and I had my daughter, and I had that neshama, and I had my daughter, my baby now, my neshama, like those, I have those neshama, and just everything that happened, really, 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 whether I know it or not, I have to believe that it's for the best, and that it took my life on a whole other path that I never thought I would be on, but really, it's an important path because, you know, Hashem wanted me to be on it, so it was there for a reason, and I have to just embrace that it happened and embrace and try and bring good out of it, because if I'm going to sit here and harp and mope for the rest of my life, then I'm never going to do anything. But if I make something good with my first baby, with my baby girl, then at least I did her justice. At least I did something good with my connection with her, and I could go on and say, oh, you know, I helped some people who also go through it. I now I'm more sensitive, you know, I'm a better mom.
I'm a better husband.
You know, thank God. Just so thank God that I'm able, that we're, you know.
You know, Frieda, I think about it that when you talk about her and you bring her to the room, right? When you bring her to the room today, when you bring her to this conversation, that ultimately you are honoring her memory in the greatest way possible, I think. You know, that you bring her to this conversation, that she informs this conversation, and there's kavod there that you offer in her memory.
Yeah.
She is this. I mean, she is this conversation.
Right. From a
therapeutic.
therapeutic,
We can't have
right.
it.
Right. And I think from a clinical perspective, again, we are talking, what you're describing is called post-traumatic growth, that we know that what happens with people who suffer a trauma, this extraordinary pain and loss in their lives, that there is potential there for post-trauma growth. And every person has to find it on their own way. It's not for me as the clinician to say to them, as a therapist, to say, okay, now it's time to get the growth process going. No. It's on their own spaces. But what you're describing is an actual experience that couples and individuals will go through after losses.
Yeah.
Any final questions when we're...
Yeah, we do actually, yeah.
Okay.
How do you stop yourself from worrying for others? I never shared my last, but I have friends planning and sharing things and so excited. First of all, I'm so sorry. I think I put that public. It was so tiny. I tried to expand it and it went live. I'm so embarrassed. I really apologize deeply that I put that question up there. I'm gonna come and feel terrible. I didn't know how to expand it.
What's the question?
From where, how do you stop yourself from worrying for others? Meaning, like, when you have other friends and family, you know, excited about having babies and babies and etc. I still can't see the rest of the question. I don't know.
Let me see.
But I mean, that doesn't get bigger. Don't click it.
I don't know. I'm not going to click it. Right. So part of the question is not there.
But
right.
I would say that it's just really hard watching everybody go on with life.
No. I think that her question is like, how is she not worrying about her friends who are pregnant now?
Yeah. That is definitely the question.
I'm scared for everybody who's pregnant.
Yeah, it's hard.
There's a lot of prayer that's
when
involved
people
in
are
this.
pregnant and they complain from here to tomorrow. You're right. You can complain 100%. But every time anyone ever complains about a baby or being pregnant, being pregnant, anything like that, it's like, just you're so lucky. You know, like I just try to remind people, just like Baruch Hashem, like biggest miracle. You know.
I don't say this very often. One of my rabbis told this to me. You know, I don't know if I'm sorry for interjecting. I apologize, but you know, Judaism is based around 3 times a day we meditate. We have counselors. We call them our rabbis. We call them our rebbitzins. I mean, we have actual counselors, you know, that we can turn to. But if you look at the therapeutic side of these things and you just try and, you know, I pray for the world every day. Every single time I close an Amidah 3 times a day. I try 3 times a day. I say, God, please don't show another woman a loss ever in their life. And every time I hear about it, another part of me breaks for them. You know, I don't know you. I may not know you. If I heard about one today, you know, I ran into someone and they said, oh, I gave your number to somebody who just went through something similar to you guys. Can you, you know, forward them? Can I find his information? And it's just like, we still need it. And I'm not praying hard enough. Maybe I'm not praying hard enough, but it's therapeutic for me to pray for people and to let them know at every moment, to just ask God and just say, don't show this to anybody. Nobody needs to see this.
I always
Nobody's
find
life needs to go through that.
Yeah, I find it so powerful. You know, one of the things that comes up for us, we talked about this before, also the idea of there's this lack of ritual. Like we don't have shiva, we don't have shoshim. Like there's many things that are missing from pregnancy loss that we would get when we are in other experiences of grief. However, if you think about it, one of the things that the Kohen Gadol talks about on Yom Kippur in the service, in the Kodesh Hagdashim, right, is about that no other woman should suffer a miscarriage. Of all the things he could pray for, of all the things that he could ask God for, in the Kodesh HaKodashim, he says that no woman should have a miscarriage. How extraordinary. So even though there's no ritual, there's no shiva, but if it's serious enough to be mentioned on Yom Kippur, it's worthy enough, I think, to have these conversations, to continue the support services that are available, to continue to expand and reach out to other people who are experiencing these losses. And I really commend both of you for sharing, you know, on this platform and in other ways to reach out.
I think there was another question in this.
Do you feel like you can share your loss of you later with people you didn't tell? Like you shut everyone out, or maybe that was the wrong thing. Right.
There's no right thing. I think that's the answer to that question. There is no right in that circumstance. If you lost, you know, whatever time you lost, you know, it's very personal, and you can share it with anybody you want to share it with.
Yeah, if you feel like it's hindering relationships and you're ready to rebuild those relationships and you just want to 100% reach out to them. I think in this day and age, they'd be happy that you told them, I think. You know, it's up. It's
very personal. It's very
up to
personal.
You know,
it's very personal. It's not for us to say to anybody else when you should start sharing it. You know, me personally, I don't like to think about. Like Frieda said, I don't. You know, I try not to answer. I have 2 children. I have 3 children. If we consider the neshama was brought into this world for whatever it needed to be brought into it for, then that's one of my children. And she's up there watching me like my grandmother's watching me.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, Frieda, you want me to say goodbye, and you can bring Rachel back in to say goodbye to everybody?
yeah, maybe I'll bring Rachel back in.
Oh, this was good for me.
Thank you.
I
really, to the kol hakavod to both of you, and continue to reach out, continue to talk. I promise you that what you shared today is something that is going to others will take with them in a way that will help. It's going to be a ripple effect. It will help others create language around this loss. So
anybody who's watching this, anybody who's seeing this, anybody who's about to sign off, and anybody that we might have lost, you know, like in the hiccup that we, you know, you can call us legitimately. My number is 917-257-7012. If your husbands need somebody to talk to and you've been through this, you can call me. You can call Frieda. You know,
call me.
There's nothing more in this world that we want, you know, sort of like like every person sort of has like a legacy for somebody that they lost, right?
Yeah.
The legacy for our baby that was lost was us helping people going through it also.
Yes. So continue to reach out, get help, reach out to SBH. I want to just mention one other website, Kanafayim, has a limited website. It is present on Instagram. And there's also Postpartum Support International, PSI, postpartum.net. Has a tremendous amount of resources and support groups that are not religious at all, but are available to everybody for free. Many support calls, support groups, things like that. Lots and lots of literature. Postpartum.net.
I highly recommend Knafayim.
Thank you. Me too.
Me too. Amazing. We couldn't have gone through without you. And
Me too.
We'll bring Rachel back in.
It's one of those
Good.
altruistic
Take care.
things.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Hi.
Hey.
Guys, I don't know. I know you're in your own bubble right now, but the whole community is flipping out. I mean it. It's just if everyone could do a standing ovation in their house, that's what would be happening right now.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you both so much. Ezra, wow. Frieda, wow. Dvora, Entin, your reputation precedes you, and now I understand why you
Amazing.
completely. We can never thank you enough for what you've done for so many people who watch live and will continue to watch the save. We're so appreciative. Please, there's a pinned message. Contact us if you need anything at all. We have a confidential line. Whatever you need, we will get you to the right place. We are going to be here same time, same place next week with somebody sharing their journey on postpartum anxiety. That will be amazing as well. I'm really looking forward. It's next Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We are putting out a newsletter this week, a fertility newsletter. If you would like to DM SBH updates with your email address, we'll make sure that you get that this week. And of course, if you'd like to support us by donating, you can do that through Venmo. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for staying on, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. We're here for you. We'll hold your hand, and we love you. Thank you so much, Laniados and Dvora and everybody.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk and to help, to be able to help even one person. Really, thank you
Just
for the
one person.
opportunity.
You absolutely
really an honor
have.
for us.
There's no question. You've done it.
And yeah, guys, call SBH. There's not more to say than that, really. Yeah, just call SBH. They're amazing. That's what I know.
Thank you.
Okay. Love you.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.